Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and welcome. It's a pleasure to see you all here, eager to explore the exciting opportunities that come with pursuing higher education abroad. My name is Maria, and I work at the Institutional Relations Department at FUNED Mexico. We are thrilled to co-host this webinar with one of the world's leading institutions, Georgetown University's McDonough School of Business. Today, we have with us Ms. Catherine Chen from Georgetown University. She brings a wealth of knowledge about the dynamic and diverse educational environment that McDonough offers. We are eager to hear the insights and learn how you can become part of this prestigious community. Whether you are just starting to consider your options or are here ready to take the next step in your educational journey, we hope this webinar will provide you with valuable information and inspiration. Now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Ms. Catherine Chen, who will be our webinar host today.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Maria. I'm really excited to be here with you all. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Just give me one moment. Can you all see my slides? Great.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great. So today I'll be presenting about Georgetown's MBA programs. We have 3 programs, full-time, flex, and flex online. However, I'll be focusing on the full-time program today. So my name is Catherine Chan, and I'm an assistant director here at Georgetown MBA. I also serve as an admissions advisor, so I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Today, I'll go over a brief description of what the program is, what to expect, and then I'll jump into what the class looks like, and then lastly, what the application process is. So to start, why Georgetown? So this slide shows you what we stand for. We have a global mindset that's truly evident in our curriculum. The first class you'll take in the Georgetown MBA program is called The Structure of Global Industries, which is a micro-econ class meant to serve as a foundation for your entire time at the university. From there, we have a curriculum that really focuses on that global mindset. I'll go over what our global business experience is, but essentially it is a trip abroad to a different country where you work with an international company. We also have a really global classroom in terms of who is in it. We have about 46 countries represented across full-time and flex programs. And about 75% of our current students who started in fall 23 noted that they either lived, studied, or worked abroad. So you get a really global perspective in the classroom as well. And then secondly, of course, we're located in Washington, D.C., the capital. And so it's a really exciting place. You have access to so many different organizations right in your backyard, whether it be big corporations like Nestle or Amazon, or even nonprofits and NGOs, or even government as well. It's truly unmatched within the DC location, and everything is really accessible in terms of how close it is to the school. And then lastly, we are really focused on principled leadership. So we are the oldest Jesuit university in the US, which means that a lot of our values are embodied in our curriculum, our students, and our staff as well. So we offer different curriculum like our leadership communications class, in addition to different experiential learning opportunities grounded again in that principled leadership. And then this is our campus. If you've never visited, it's very beautiful, I think. On the left here, you have kind of the iconic Georgetown building. It's called Healy Hall. And then just behind it, you see the Washington Monument. In the middle here is the Hariri building, which is where the School of Business is. So all your MBA classes will be held in this building. And then on the bottom in the middle is actually inside the Hariri building, which is where I am right now. But you can see it's a very open building in terms of the layout. There are 5 floors in total, but if you are on the first floor, you could see all the way up to the 5th essentially. And then, likewise, if you were on the 5th floor, you could see all the way to the bottom. But there are different study rooms on each floor, 2nd and 3rd, where MBA students could go into breakout rooms with their study groups. They can also sit in these open booth areas, which are always occupied by students in between classes. And then to the right is actually our football field, which is what the Hariri building faces. So if I were to look outside, I'd actually be able to see a lacrosse game going on right now. So it's always very high activity around the Hariri building. And so you're probably thinking, what MBA program should I focus on? So as I had mentioned, we do have three programs, full-time, flex, and flex online. However, my main focus today is the full-time program. However, all three programs are essentially the same in terms of the curriculum, the resources, and the opportunities. And so the only difference essentially is the timing at which you'll be taking those classes in terms of years and then the time of day. So for the full-time program, you have class Monday through Thursday for 2 years. And so on Fridays, we actually don't have class. And so that's because we really hope to use this day for students for recruitment processes. We have a lot of on-campus interviews that day from potential employers, in addition to what we call our career days, where for consulting day, for example, they'll bring in top employers within that industry. They have different info sessions with these employers, like KPMG, for example, or Deloitte. And then they also have breakout sessions with Georgetown alumni at these companies to really see what it would be like to work at a specific company. And then from there, we have two flex or part-time programs. So one is in person and one is online. But for all three programs, we have our week-long global residency, which is actually my next slide, but it's called a global business experience. And so the global business experience, I would say, is a highlight for a lot of MBA students. It is a requirement for all the full-time flex and flex online students. As a full-time student, the global business experience would actually occur in the second semester of your second year. And essentially, for about 6 weeks, you'll be consulting virtually with an international company. And then it culminates in a 1 to 2 week trip in person. For full-time students, this is over your spring break. For flex students, this is in the summer. But the students go to a mix of 4 different countries, and that's because everyone in your assigned cohort, either Blue, Gray, or Hoya Saxa, are the cohort names for full-time. For example, the entire Hoya cohort may go to Germany, whereas the entire Saxa cohort may go to Vietnam. So that means about 60 to 70 of your classmates will be going to the same country, although they'll be working with different companies. For example, we worked with a small winery in Chile, on a smaller size of business to Coca-Cola in Vietnam. So it really varies in terms of what those industries cover and what the project types are. As a student, actually, you do have a say in what type of project and the company you work with will be. In the fall, the MBA program office will provide you with a list of companies and the projects, and you essentially outline a top 10 list, outlining, where you'd like to work and who you like to work with. And so I think that's a great experience. And if you check out the McDonough School of Business Instagram account, you'll actually see the photos from the most recent GDE, which was over spring break. In addition to the global business experience, which is required, we have our optional treks. So those are either organized by the Career Center, which we call a career trek. A popular one is a finance trek up to New York. It could be a trek organized by a club. So the Net Impact group or club organized a trip to Botswana in the fall. Or it could be a trek organized by a specific center within McDonough, such as how the Steer Center for Global Real Estate, they do an annual trek to London. So these treks typically occur over a break where you don't have class. So either fall break, winter break, or spring break or summer break. If over spring break, it must be within your first year, since we'll be going on that required global business experience in the second year of your MBA. And so here is just a list of companies that we have worked with in the past. in addition to where our students have visited before. In addition to the global curriculum I've already noted and the global business experience, we also have access to a very large global network. So across Georgetown, we have so many different colleges and programs. It's over 200,000 alumni. Across McDonough, we have about 30,000 alumni, but within just the MBA program, we have about 10,000. And really that spans over 189 countries globally. And you'll see when you walk into the Hariri building and even here, so many different languages, which I really appreciate how diverse the classroom environment is within McDonough. So we have different opportunities to connect with alumni. I would say most informally are through coffee chats that you may schedule over LinkedIn with alumni who are always very open to accommodating those requests. We have a saying at Georgetown called Hoyas helping Hoyas, and oftentimes we see that within the alumni connections with different recruiters and potential employers. More formally, we have different alumni networks and a initiative through the McDonough Career Center called Hoyas Hiring Hoyas, where McDonough alumni have opted into helping current students with the job search. So, of course, that's really helpful. But that's something that you would have access to as a current MBA student. They have a whole career center portal with different job postings and alumni information too. And then from there, we have that career day support that I had mentioned. So for consulting day, finance day, marketing day, you have many alumni coming in. And then next week, actually on Friday, we have what we call the Executive Challenge. So over 200 alumni, they fly in voluntarily to serve as judges for the first year MBA's final exam for their leadership communication class. And so this is called the Executive Challenge because it's meant to mimic what a real executive challenge or case would be. And so within your study group, you're put into different roles. Maybe you are the director of marketing, or maybe you are the director of finance, for example, but you're put onto a specific problem or case. And then 5 alumni are to serve as the C-suite. And they play different roles to mimic what a real boardroom would be. So you have, for example, maybe what we call the rude board member or the one who interrupts you. They'll take a call during the meeting. How do you, interact with that? How do you face that obstacle? So really, it's a great real life example. And it's actually, again, the final exam for that leadership communications class. And on this slide, these are some examples of our network of partners that facilitate a diverse community within Georgetown. We partner with organizations like Forte, the Consortium, Reaching Out MBA, and Prospanica. And they help us to build really diverse communities within the Georgetown MBA program. They also help us to offer scholarships to our students. And so the scholarship process, unlike the application process, which I'll go into, is a holistic process. But these organizations help us to diversify our classroom as well. And really, when you are a full-time MBA student at McDonough, you're more than just a degree. You have study abroad options, going on that global mindset. And that study abroad opportunity typically occurs in the second semester of your first year. On the next slide, I'll show you kind of what the curriculum looks like. But in your first semester, it's going to be all core classes that are required. But in that second semester, that's when you begin to take your electives. And on this slide, an array of institutions that we currently partner with for our study abroad program. We're constantly adding new institutions every year. And so certainly this may change next year as well. And then as a full-time student, you are able to pursue a dual degree program if interested. So we have dual degree programs with the Law Center for the JD, the Med School for the MD, the School of Public Policy for the Masters in Public Policy, and then the Masters in Foreign Service as well. If you choose to pursue a dual degree program, essentially you would need to apply to the MBA program separately. and then let's say the JD program separately, as these are two separate admissions committees. I would also add that if you pursue a dual degree, this extends your time at the university by 1 year of the program that is the longest. So, for example, if you do the MBA MD, it would be 5 years at Georgetown. But we have specific criteria and what the breakdown looks like on our website. If you choose to apply dual degree, let's say while you're currently an MBA student, you can do that. It has to actually be in your first year only though. So let's say if you're a first year MBA student, you could apply to the MPP program. And then from there, you would begin what that dual degree looks like. And then on the bottom here, we have our different centers and initiatives. This is just an example since we have many, but we have a center for global real estate through the Steer Center, in addition to an initiative called Georgetown Entrepreneurship. All of these centers and initiatives are led by practicing professors. Their initiatives are grounded in research, and oftentimes they have a student club that they typically assist. So for real estate, they have the Georgetown Real Estate Society led by an MBA student, but you liaise with George Jonas and Matt Seifer from the Sears Center for different opportunities. And then within Georgetown Entrepreneurship, this is led by Professor Jeff Reed, who's the founding executive director. But they also work with the Net Impact Fellows Club at Georgetown. And so, as I had mentioned, I just wanted to go over a sneak peek at what the full-time curriculum looks like. So you'll see that all the green boxes are the required core classes. So everyone in the full-time MBA program takes these classes at the exact same time. So if you enter in fall 23, everyone who enters in fall or fall 24, everyone will be taking these classes at the same time and pace. That's because a lot of these classes build on one another. You'll see within one semester, you have like two little boxes. That's because within every semester, we have two modules. So there are two modules within one semester. And for example, the accounting fundamentals class would be the first half of the fall semester. Then you'll have a break, and then you'll go into corporate financial reporting. So these are not at the same time, but they're back to back. But all the blocks that are on top of each other, those are all at the same time. So as a full-time student, you'd be expected to take 4 classes at a time. All of the classes in blue boxes are your electives. So these begin in your first year, second semester. And then the purple boxes are what we call our ILEs, or intensive learning experiences. These are shortened electives that take place over a break. So most commonly spring break, for example, or you could do one during winter break as well. But they're called intensive because of the short time, about 1 to 2 weeks. And then we call it a learning experience because typically there's some sort of deliverable or proposal at the end. So some popular ILEs this past spring were mobile app development, where you developed a proposal for a real mobile app that you had thought of. Another popular ILE was digital marketing, where the professor brought in different practitioners or real experts in the field every class over this 1 week. So it was really exciting to learn about, let's say, like programmatic ads from someone who works at a fast-paced agency. In addition, another popular ILE is data visualization. So the ILEs, the topics change every year, but really popular ones I would say are offered at least once a year. But the electives are a great way to really diversify your network. So all of the green classes, the core classes, are with your cohort, again, that you've been assigned to, either blue, gray, or Hoya Saxa if you're full-time. For the blue and purple boxes for the electives can be with any cohort and any program in the MBA program. So it could be with flex students who are part-time, if you choose to do an evening elective. It could also be with another full-time cohort. I would say the great thing about our class size is that it's a community that you get to know really well. So in every one of your core classes, you'll be put into a study group, and that study group changes with every core class you have. So within your cohort of about 60 to 70 students, you get to know everyone. And the program office is very intentional in terms of who was in your study group. So they won't put, let's say, all females in one group. They won't put all males in one group, but really it's supposed to be diverse in terms of what the class profile looks like. So different industries should be represented, different years of work experience as well. And then, of course, we are in our application cycle right now. We just wrapped up round three's um, application deadline, but we have the round four application deadline coming up on April 30th. You'll see that every round has 3 or 4 important dates. So the first is the application deadline when all of your components must be submitted. And on the next slide, I'll go over what those components are. And then the second important date is the decision notification date, which is essentially for round four, everyone who applies in round four will receive their decision on May 29th. So we don't release decisions earlier than this. This allows us to craft a competitive and diverse class, and everyone gets their decision on that day. And then, of course, we have the deposit deadline when students need to let us know if they have been admitted, do they intend to hold their spot for the fall. So as I had mentioned, we do have required components for our application. It is a very holistic approach, and so I will say that not just one part, let's say like work experience, will determine whether or not you've been admitted, but we take a very holistic approach to really create that dynamic and diverse classroom. So on the top here, you'll see the qualitative components, the letter recommendation, which we do require one. We typically do suggest it comes from your current direct supervisor. If you have a special circumstance, like you just started your current job a week ago, probably isn't a good idea to ask your current direct supervisor since they don't know you that well. In that case, you can for sure just ask your past supervisor. But if there's any circumstance like that, we do ask you to address it in our optional essay, which is optional, but it helps us provide any context around anything you might have questions about, like a letter recommendation. And then from there, we do have an evaluative interview. Our interviews are all invite only. And so if you are invited to interview, it will be randomized in terms of who you interview with. It will either be someone on the admissions committee like myself, an alumni, or current student. And it is a blind interview, meaning that your interviewer has not read or seen your application. They only have your resume. So as to avoid any bias across that process. And then everyone who is eventually offered admission to the program needs to have been interviewed. And then we have our personal essays. We do require one written essay. We have 3 prompts on the website. One is called Georgetown Community, the other is Leave Your Legacy, and the last one is Magis, which is a Jesuit principle. But we ask you to choose one prompt. And then we also require a video essay, which personally is my favorite, but it is a 1-minute length. And we ask you to share 5 to 10 random facts about yourself that are not on your resume. So really hoping to get to know you. A tip I would say about the video essay is really tying maybe a skill or a lesson that you've learned to what you could potentially bring to the classroom. It really helps us to understand what your contribution to the community might be. And then on the bottom here, we have our quantitative components of the application. Of course, we look at your academic history. For your application, we ask that you submit unofficial transcripts, so we don't need the official ones. But for every class that you've taken, we do need the grade to be indicated. So if you have a transfer credit from study abroad, for example, we do need a transcript with an actual grade as well. And then all transcripts must have your full name on it. If you have a GPA that is not on the 4.0 scale, there's no need to convert it. We actually will just convert it on our own. And then from there, we also look at your test score. So we do accept the GRE, GMAT, and executive assessment. We don't have a preference for an exam. We just ask that you submit the exam and that you would perform the best on. I would say oftentimes some students maybe they don't do as well on the GMAT, then they pivot to the GRE and they perform better. So every exam is different. Um, for the test score, we also do accept a full-time test waiver. The criteria is on the website, but it does require you to actually submit a form in order to be eligible for that test waiver. And then the admissions committee will evaluate if you are eligible. But we do ask for your resume and your transcript. If it is a school that was not in the US, we ask for a WES evaluation as well. And then from there, we look at your work experience. So at a minimum, we require 2 years of full-time uh, post-undergraduate work experience. So we don't count work experience that has occurred during your undergrad as full-time. But I would say there's really a range of years of work experience, and I'll go to the next slide for that. So this is what the full-time class that entered in fall 23 looked like. You can see it's very diverse in terms of who was in the classroom. It was about 260 students across all 4 cohorts. Again, Blue, Gray, Hoya, and Saxa. And then you'll see that the median age was 29, given that the average years of work experience was 5.5. So again, in order to be eligible for the program, you need a minimum of 2 years, but I would say the average is around 5.5. And then we also calculated the average GPA that's based on the undergraduate GPA submitted by our applicants. And then going back to that test type question, you can see it's pretty split between GRE and GMAT. It doesn't equal 100 because some students submitted an executive assessment score, or some students were eligible for the test waiver, so they didn't have to submit a score. But we do have the mid 80% ranges here. On our website, we have the actual average, but I would say if you don't meet the average, try to meet the mid 80% range. This is really where our students are. And then, as I had mentioned, across full-time and flex, we have about 46 countries represented. Within full-time, we have 40 countries represented, and you can see kind of a map here of where those students came from. I can share that from Mexico specifically, across the last 5 years, we've had 20 students enter into the program. On the next slide, I'll go over a few success stories just to see what students have looked like in the past. And then we also have our top 5 current industries. So financial services and consulting are by far the most popular in terms of where our students are coming from. But I would say it's really a range of what they've studied. You can see 19% have studied humanities. And so really there is no traditional MBA background. It's really diverse in terms of what students have studied and where they're coming from. We have, for example, former teachers, former nonprofit workers, and so really it's mixed. And so again, over the last 5 years, we've had about 20 students who are citizens of Mexico come to the full-time MBA program. Here are just a few success stories across different years. So we have Sergio, who graduated in 2022. He had a background in finance, and then he went to Boston Consulting Group as a consultant, where he's been for the last 2 years. And then Santiago graduated in 2021. Now he's actually the VP of Scotia Bank. And then Janine graduated in 2018. She's a director at Ashoka, Changemaker Companies. So feel free to look them up on LinkedIn. But these are just very diverse backgrounds to echo that, there isn't just one background in terms of what makes an MBA student. And then I also have 2 email addresses from current MBA students who are from Mexico. They're actually studying for exams right now, and so they couldn't join the webinar, but I'm happy to share that at the end as well. But hopefully you're all able to connect with us. We do have MBA student ambassadors. If you go to this little QR code, you'll be able to chat with them. And then we also have a lot of upcoming events, virtual and in person, including different application workshops. We actually do have a virtual info session coming up next week on Thursday that I'm hosting at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. But that wraps up my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have. It looks like we have 2 questions in the chat. Yeah, so feel free to come off camera if you have any questions or to drop into the chat. Sophia?
Hi, Catherine. Thank you so much for your presentation. Sorry, I was a little bit late. Um, I I can't really see any questions except one that was sent to me privately. They're asking about the strong areas of the McDonald School of Business.
Yeah, so in terms of our employment outcomes, about 38% of our students who graduated in May 23 actually went into consulting. Um, and then from there, about 28% went into financial services, and then about 20% go into technology. But actually, let me just drop our employment report really quickly
Awesome.
into the chat.
That's awesome. Thank you. I assume there's numbers there about the return of investment and things like that. Yeah.
Yes, we do have average salary in there as well. And so if you go to the link I just dropped, the average salary for full-time students was around 150,000 for the class that graduated in 2023 with a 43,000 average signing bonus. And about 93% of our students received an offer within 3 months of graduating.
Awesome. Thank you so much. There's a question from Carla. She's asking if there's a specific type of financial aid, scholarships, or maybe working on campus for international students.
Sure, yeah, that's a great question. So we do offer scholarships to all students, domestic and international. I can share that for this application cycle, we have a little over $2.5 million available in scholarship funding. That's across all 3 MBA programs, but full-time students typically do receive a greater percentage of that budget, given that they're foregoing a full-time job. So 42% of our full-time students who entered in fall 23 actually were offered a scholarship. And then the average amount was $40,000 between year 1 and 2. So that would be 20,000 year 1, 20,000 year 2. If you are offered a scholarship, that would be in your offer letter when you are admitted. And it's to be divided equally between year 1 and 2. But we do partner with different organizations like Hispanica and Ramba to provide scholarships to our students. And so certainly I encourage you to look at some of our partners to really see, what are some of their criteria for joining as a member. Those organizations also provide a lot of resources. So for example, if you are a Ramba fellow, you're able to attend their annual Ramba conference. And a lot of employers go to these conferences, which the Career Center will talk about, when you're a student. But oftentimes students get a job offer like during that conference, like on the spot. So these partnerships are really great in order to, really diversify your network, but also really help yourself in terms of recruitment too. And so in order to be eligible for a scholarship, all you need to do is submit an application that is complete. We don't require a separate form or application in order to be considered. Essentially, we have a separate, admissions committee, and then we have a scholarship committee. So the scholarship committee, their goal is to recruit a competitive and diverse class. And so they take that very holistic approach, with the 6 boxes with the quantitative and qualitative components too.
And also anyone who applies for the FUNED funding is also eligible for a scholarship from McDonald, from Georgetown. And it's $5,000 per year for the full-time MBA, $10,000 in total, $8,000 for the Masters in Management, and $8,000 for the Masters of Arts in International Business and Policy program. So anyone who's not offered a scholarship when they receive their application, their acceptance letter, they can also apply to FUNED and then get funding from us and then get a scholarship from Georgetown.
Thank you so much, Sophia.
Yeah. Any other questions? ¿Más preguntas? Aprovechen que estamos aquí, somos poquitos. Take advantage. Maybe, Catherine, I don't know if you mentioned this, but a little bit about the cost of life in Washington. Maybe that would be interesting to know as well.
Yeah, definitely. I will pull up our tuition page, excuse me, which kind of breaks down some of the estimated costs that you would have. Let's see if I can pull it up.
Also, the university is in a great area in the city, right? So it's very dynamic. There's a lot of restaurants, shops, etc. around the area, if I'm not mistaken.
So many restaurants, yes. And so this is a breakdown of the full-time MBA program costs. Essentially, it is the same as the Flex program, although it's broken down by 2 years as opposed to 3 years. So everything on the left here is the direct expenses for 1 year. Of course, you have tuition, the graduate student activity fee, it could be waived if you opt out of it, but it's if you want to join any clubs on campus. And then the health insurance can also be waived if you have health insurance in a different manner. On the right here are the indirect expenses that we have estimated. So we would say average living allowance is about 26,000, given that rent is about, I would say, at a minimum, 1,500 per month at an apartment building. If you find maybe like a room and a townhouse, it could be different. But I know a lot of our students, all of our admitted students are in a WhatsApp group and they have a different chat for roommates as well. So they find a lot of roommates there. I live one neighborhood from Georgetown and I see a lot of MBA students on the weekends because they all live in that neighborhood too. And then average travel is based on a global business experience and any treks that you might do. For the global business experience, the students cover the flight in terms of finances, but the hotel and the activities during the trip are all covered by the MBA program. And so these are the estimated expenses. Again, the direct ones are, they will definitely be firm, whereas the indirect expenses, will really vary based on where you choose to live and if you choose to do a trek, for example.
That's very helpful. Thank you. There's some questions about the English requirements.
Yes, that's a great question. So for all international students, we do require an English proficiency exam. The only exemption is if you studied at a university, either undergraduate or graduate level, where the medium of instruction was English. And if it was, we need this noted on the transcript so that we can waive the English proficiency exam requirement. But we do accept the IELTS and the TOEFL. The specific score minimum requirements are on the website. I believe the TOEFL is 100 for the web one, and the IELTS is 6, unless I'm mixing those up, but it's on the website too.
Thank you so much. Emmanuel asked about the MBA Flex Online. When to apply, are they the same application deadlines as the regular MBA?
Yes, so they are the same deadlines. And actually, we recently opened up the Flex MBA online program to anyone in Central and South America, as long as you're able to log on to the class at the same time. So anyone in Mexico, for example, would be eligible for the Flex MBA online program too.
Wow, that's great. How long does the program last for?
Yeah, so the full-time program is 2 years in total. Everyone begins in August of that fall. And then everyone ends in May for graduation. And that's because of that curriculum schedule. Everyone needs to be on the same schedule in terms of when they're taking these classes. So we can't have a student starting in the spring, for example. Everyone must start in the fall semester. For the Flex program, it varies. It is an average of 3 years for the Flex program, both in person and online. If you really stack their credits, you could finish it in 2.5. Some students are doing that. They're taking more electives than required. At the most, it could take 5 years if maybe you take like one class at a time, but really it's an individual basis. But I would say an average of 3 years for flex.
I have a question about, if I have a question about my application and require help, do you have a contact so I can, or can I contact you?
Yes, that's a great question. So before I forget, I did want to share the two students' email addresses that have offered them. Just they're studying for exams right now. Um, but yes, they're in a study session for their valuation class right now, which is why they're unable to join. But they are very willing to answer any questions they said feel free to share their email addresses. So I'll go ahead.
Of them. Thank you so much.
Yes, Juan Pablo and Juan Carlos are their names, and those are their email addresses. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us via a system called Unibuddy, which I will drop into the chat as well. If you want to connect with any other students, we have our student ambassadors. And then admissions, feel free to email me at catherine.chan@georgetown.edu. Drop that in. So for the students, definitely reach out to them if you have any student experience questions. But for any admissions or application components, feel free to reach out to me as to not, bombard them with those types of operational questions.
Thank you, Catherine. Just a love message from Carla. Thank you, Catherine. Georgetown is one of my favorites.
Oh,
Definitely checking it out. So yeah, hope to see your application soon. Yes.
Yes, we
So
have beautiful weather today. It's actually around the 70s, which is pretty unusual for April, but we're really enjoying it.
very nice. So if there is any more questions? I don't think so. So I just want to remind everyone that this session was recorded. We're going to be uploading it on our webpage later today or tomorrow. So if you guys know anyone that might be interested in this information, please feel free to share it with them. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much, Catherine, also for your time and presentation. Really, it's a great opportunity to live in Washington for me. Sounds amazing, and then to go to a great school, even better. So do consider it. Send your applications in, and we hope to see you all very soon. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Yes, thank you everyone so much for your time, and Sophia Maria for this opportunity to speak with this group. Hope to see everyone's applications, but feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions.
Gracias a todos.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.